just feel like you're more interested in the bug than you are in the podcast these days. So the podcast is over here, my friend. Oh, look, the banner's up top now. Oh, I guess I don't have my audio on, so we'll let's see what happens if we do one of these old-fashioned things.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
All right, welcome everybody. We do this vertical now. We're not in the olden days where everybody does everything horizontal. So if you're listening to this as a podcast and you're wondering, why does it seem cooler? Why does it seem more hip and trendy? And that's because you're listening to it in vertical. You're welcome. So let's double check. I don't have anybody live right now to give us any audio feedback. So we'll go over here and click feedback. So we'll certainly have audio. So we're good to go. All right, we're doing this all vertical. This is the way it is now. So we were doing this specifically for the X. Let's see if this encourages more X participation. Let's see. So I guess I should also flip the banner since this isn't an Every Second Matters broadcast. All right. And on Tuesdays, we go live. Well, this is welcome everybody to the Daily Gun Show, right? So every Tuesday, we go live to talk about, trying to do too many things here. I'm seeing if I can still screen share. And actually, I don't think I put anything on Substack this week for this. I think I can still screen share. So let's try doing that. So for the people that are listening to this as a podcast in the future, oh man, really? It's I'm playing with the vertical broadcast this week. So for people on phones, I guess. So such a weird way to share the screen. I guess it has to do it this way. What does this button do? Oh, I don't know why I would do that. So, yuck. Can I flip it midstream? If Gizzard was here, he'd know. I think this was a big mistake. Big mistake. I'm going to quit doing this for sure. So I guess it's a good thing that I did. So I didn't prepare nothing because I figured I would be experimenting with vertical and that it wouldn't work. So we'll just dig into the description of the video verbally here. So I thought it would be interesting to bring this up. I can't remember if we've ever even brought this up before on our Tuesday shows. And back in the old, well, actually, our old workshops were on Tuesdays also. So, yeah, I can't remember if we've ever brought this up on a workshop before. But we're going to be talking today about archiving your journey in Second Amendment and your adventures. So not everybody is creating content, and those that are, of course, are doing it in different ways. But, often we're looking through a camera lens or whatever for whatever it is we're trying to do, maybe videos or photographs or, I don't know, like Snob is just joining us now. He likes to take a lot of images. They do a lot of live stuff. The live stuff for sure, we kind of just let go by because we think of it as, what's the word? It's perishable now. It's not the right word, but it's just there for a bit and it's gone. So I guess people might listen to a rewind to keep up on something or every once in a while to verify something, but I don't think we think of them the same way as we think of other content. So, archiving them is less a priority, if at all. But then there's lots of different things that we create content on. And then I guess I'm also saying the stuff that we create content on is what we're focused on. And then there's all the rest of the stuff that I think we always tend to leave out unless we're doing a documentary type of situation. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Of course, I stuck that into the robots. We pay the robots money so that they tell us better stuff than they would otherwise. Actually, I'm paying the GPT software again. I started out paying them a long time ago because I wanted faster access to learn about it and play with it and learn from it and use it for things. And then we quit paying for it for a while because honestly it was not necessary. There's a lot of options out there and the paid version was just a little bit faster. But then after a while of not paying, it turns out they did do some changes. They have a new one, and the new version will learn. It'll allow you to have a conversation with it that it learns from, and it gets to understand a topic and a subject. And that intrigues me. So we're paying $25 a month for it. And there's some other perks, but mainly that's what we're looking for there. But it also gives us access to the fastest, best computer brain. So that's what we plugged in. And I usually also, if I got the time, I plug it into a couple of other computer AI learning models or whatever that are out there so that I can compare them. And then, I'm just copying and pasting the best stuff from all of them, trying to edit out the garbage or the weird stuff. When possible, but let's see what happens this week. Since I can't screen share, we're just looking at the co-host over here. So it says welcome and introductions, brief introduction of the co-host. And this is our little puppy co-host. Yesterday, this leg, he was limping around on it for most of the day. So I felt pretty bad for him. I didn't know what to do. I made him lay down all the time. He doesn't like doing that. He's usually wants to run around being a jerk or whatever and follow me around. So, anyway, so we got him to lay down for a while, and then we went over to a friend's house, and he ran around a little bit, and looks like now he's doing okay. But anyway, puppy co-host is dealing with something going on in this leg, and we'll be watching him for the rest of the show. That's the introductions, overview of the sessions, specific objectives. I've been doing this for a while, and I hear from the audience that dogs only need 3 legs. Let me get that leg off of there. I got a spoon here. That's all you should need. You just scoop that leg off of there. The session, why I think I mentioned we're going to talk about documenting your journey. I've been doing this for a while, and somewhere along the line, just having conversations every once in a while. In fact, just the other day, we were actually the last little while here. Maybe that's one of the things that sparked this. I've been having some conversations about the good old days type of thing, and the recollections get foggy as you get older. You start to realize that you just have so much hard drive space, and you are going to start to lose stuff, and stuff gets harder to recollect. And that comes more apparent when people get together, right? And try to figure out what happened years ago type of thing. So let's document it. We are doing it. Essentially, we're talking like indexing it, and then every once in a while going back and creating some sort of a piece of content, document, report, list, video, show, something that goes back and kind of does that. And people do that occasionally on their end of the year things, maybe at an anniversary, 1,000 subs, or some waypoint along the line, 1,000,000 subs. I forget where they give you the button at 100,000 subs still. And then those kind of things, or just the waypoints that are cool, and that kind of thing. So sometimes those do get created, but I guess we're talking a little bit more deliberately than that. And maybe perhaps in a way that's expandable, like can be added to. I guess you can lick your leg. Don't lick anything else down there. It's the importance of archiving your journey for your own, right? I don't know. I'm not a therapist here, but I think for your own sake, and maybe legally. So if somebody comes along and says, I'm the one that has the puppy co-host, and I'll be like, what are you talking about? I have a puppy co-host. You can see right here from the documented proof of it that I have a puppy co-host, or some other issue. There's definitely all kinds of little spats that happen. I guess I don't have to show this bottom. We can do this. Everybody that votes for this type in hashtag we vote for this puppy co-host version. And if you vote for the other one, type in hashtag we vote for the other puppy co-host version. Because some people might want to see his whole entire blubber body. He's got a pretty blubbery body. That's probably what happened to his leg, because he was so blubbery that he was smushing his one leg. All right, so they say, the robots say, preservation of content and experiences, of course, easy access for future reference and sharing, and that's a great point. Archiving and indexing for ourselves and for others. I keep saying we're the shoebox of black and white photos for the future. When we sit there and look at the closet and see, we go in there and see what grandma had in a drawer, or what grandpa had down in the basement or something, and you find a box of pictures and you wonder what's going on. Often they would write on the back, who was in it. Maybe, this was so-and-so vacation. Grandmas are good to do that. Grandpa's not so much. And, we're often just wondering. And sometimes it's interesting, and we can remember times of them going through the shoebox with us. But what we're creating here is essentially that for the future. The future is going to be all three-dimensional. It's going to have holograms and some sort of internet tubes that are so vast we can't even imagine them with our tiny internet brains. So imagine the internet robots of the future. So I'm just saying, they're going to be looking at us like that box of black and white photos. So being part of that is pretty neat. And especially when we're talking about something that matters, right? When, if we're just talking about puppy pictures, I can see why somebody says that's not such a big deal. But when we're talking about the nuance of why guns are normal and why we're persecuted, and now that we understand, there's lots of ways to address that argument, and very few ways that he's got a fly that he's been doing battle with most of the morning, and I can't seem to kill it. It's a giant fly. So he's definitely preoccupied with that. You could care less about the podcast, in my opinion. So, we have a lot of people coming at us, and they have relatively few arguments. So I think it's neat to have, since we have so many, one of our advantages, we have so many different ways of people coming at them for all the BS at this point, that the more people that document it, the more the internet knows. And we're talking about right now getting this data from a large language model, which just means a excuse me, a large language model. I'm trying to find the mute on here. It's a little bit weird. A large language model is just a computer program that gets laid down on top of a lot of data and kind of thinks, but it doesn't really. It just seems like it's thinking, but it interacts with that data, pulls from that data. So the more data we create to, again, normalize guns and the ownership of guns, and to neutralize the BS that's been put out there, then that's, the better. So that's really the overall goal. And that's literally what we're talking about doing here, but archiving that as well. And then enhancing credibility and storytelling. I think that's good too. And again, I'm not a therapist, but I think on your own side, that's got to be good once in a while. A lot of times you'll get, along the way, discouraged or less motivated or whatever you want to say. But, there's always ebbs and flows of motivation, and understanding how much you contribute is good to understand. Like, we all contribute, and there's no, there's easy to overlook the contributions. So by archiving them and then doing that yourself, adding to your list every once in a while, every couple of months, every year. I guess we'll talk about frequency. If you do it too far, you'll start forgetting stuff and you'll leave stuff out. If you do it too often, some kind of crazy diary, but often a blog can help you with that, and some sort of a system that lets you kind of periodically make sure that you're hitting all the pieces in your blog, but let your blog potentially help do some of this for you, or Patreon or Substack or whatever, fill in the blank for maybe even a newsletter if you're doing it that way. Feel free to interact. This is an interactive workshop. We probably could start bringing people in. Let me know if that's something people are interested in. It's a weird time of day. I try to do this show before Cape Gunworks goes live with their 2A Tuesday segment. So this isn't necessarily an opportune time for most people who are working, but we are doing it vertical today. So let me know what you think of that. Oh, snap. There goes that fly again. You may not realize if you're not watching it, but puppy is freaking out about this fly over here. It's really hard to keep him in this vertical situation. And can't even see the mute. Because that's my fault. Maybe if I move the monitor over here. Now I'm going to have to get used to having the mute and everything way over here. I'll probably end the stream accidentally. Now it feels like the puppy is way behind me because I'm looking the other way. Anyway, so now I lost where the dang show is. I guess it was, oh no, this, I can't do it this way. I have to have this over here. So this has to go back over there. So you might get coughed on once in a while, and I do apologize for that, but the way it's set up right now for the puppy to even get anywhere near in the frame, the mic is right in front of me, seeing the mute button. Snob is saying he loves this TikTok style live stream. We'll do a TikTok dance for him. This is the new TikTok thing where you rub a dog on the top of his head and his bottom of his head. They call that the pug wiggle, the piggle wiggle. You can do it with a pig, but I do it with pug. Call it the piggle wiggle. It's supposed to look like a pickle sandwich, from what I understand. Some cartoon has a pickle sandwich in it. It's real popular on the TikTok. I'm not sure what country it's in. Wherever they eat pickle sandwiches, I guess. All right, so that's why that's all the importance of archiving. This feels like a lecture, so feel free to participate. If you're listening on the X, this whole vertical it's seeing is for the kids on the X. Those kids over there that are on the X that I've been watching the show, but this is all about the internet. Participate, wiggle those thumbs. I'm assuming you still wiggle thumbs. Maybe they do something else to participate on the phones. I'm not here to tell them how to work with their phones, but I'm just saying, feel free to do it. Look what Snob's doing. Boom. See how he uses his words, and now he's participating in the show. For people that are listening to this as a podcast in the future, his words just popped up on the screen. Thanks to StreamYard. Because that's the system we're using to broadcast this. All right, so let's see. Then we're going to dig into evaluating what you've got, categorizing it, converting it into digital. That's interesting. Editing, documenting. I'm not going to get into all this. So ensuring data security. Interesting. Making the archive accessible. Very cool. Recommended software platforms. That might be interesting. And then have questions at the end and a recap of key points. So with those bullet points in mind, those are certainly all good elements of this project, archiving your. So first thing is, most people have done this on social. So that's a good place to start. I started with like a document, open up a blank document and just start, and page one, so it begins, something happened, and then maybe at the end of the document, a couple of pages, you say today, and then you start putting in the years, depending on if it's how big your project is, years, months, whatever, and then start remembering the big things, put those in there. Maybe SHOT Show, if that's your thing. If this is a gun related thing, a lot of times SHOT Show is a big yearly peak. Maybe it's some other event like that. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the again, your 1,000 subscribers, your 2,000 subscribers. I forget what all the hurdles are now. If you're creating a channel and you want it to get to monetization, those kind of hurdles. I forget what other things there are anymore, like to that YouTube expects growth in order to achieve or unlock. And then sometimes it's just goals that you had, right? So maybe you have the time that you've been doing your project, and you set down your goals or what. So anyway, you start putting that stuff down, and before you know it, it kind of writes itself, right? And then you start to remember, oh yeah, in between we did go to the gun rights policy conference that year, or visited some shooting range, or went on a I don't know, but people oftentimes do things outside their realm, and just to experience it, or because it was an opportunity or something, and you don't really think about it because it's not inside your realm. You're not thinking about it daily. So by archiving it, it gives you an opportunity to kind of collect those things. In some ways, it's a bit of a resume. Is that the way to say it? Yeah, I think it's called a resume. Maybe I'm using the wrong word, but it's just so that if there's a way to say like a resume for a project, because that's not necessarily just the achievements of an individual, especially if there's a team, or if it's been for the channel or for the project or something. Or like in the sake of gun channels, putting the archive of gun channels down. That's not like a person. That's that was just a bunch of things that happened, and there must have been other things like gun channels out there. Okay, we're boring him, so comment more. I don't want to say you're all boring the co-host, but usually the co-host is a lot more enthusiastic about the show when there's comments coming in. So he's just over here yawning. What do you think about that scroll at the top? I think that's super weird. Why not put it at the bottom? There must be some psychology to putting it at the top, I guess. Unless I have control over that. What can I do over here? I can't do nothing. I don't think. So yeah, I don't think I can control that. All right. So again, we're playing with the vertical because we're not in the past. We're living in the future, Grandpa. Listen, Grandma, just hold your phone the other way. It's no big deal. Now we got the close-up of the co-host. You want the co-host to be interested? Feel free to leave a comment out there. All right, so evaluating existing content, types of content, current organization and storage methods. I guess I was saying we all kind of start with our social media stuff because it's so kind of obvious and easy to start there. But often you start at someplace else first, and that might be, well, although again, for most people, that is probably starting with social media pictures here and there, but it certainly doesn't have to be on your channel. You might have been posting pictures, I don't know, as part of a, what's that called? A message board group or something. Something that predates the current socials, one of the past socials, but even before that, there was just ways that people got together, and even newsletters and stuff, maybe contributing to a newsletter. Some people I know, actually I know quite a few people personally, but that's just, my being in the gun media or whatever. But some people were writing magazine articles. So most of their credentials, maybe I wasn't thinking of resume, but credentials. I think credentials was the word I was thinking of. But, listing your own credentials every once in a while, is that the right word? I think is valuable so that you don't forget the stuff that you may have done, again, casually, unintentionally, as an opportunity. What are you doing, Tom? I guess he's going to go hunting. We're losing a co-host. He's going hunting. And we're going to put him down. He's getting put down. Yes, we put down very gently because he's tender, because he's got a very big, fat body and tiny little toothpick legs that are damaged. So now what do I do? I guess I stop the camera, and now it's horrible. This is a horrible decision. At least I can move the mic to a decent position. Essentially, this mic was kind of dead center in my eyeballs to get him on the screen before. Now he's on the floor hunting that bee. I don't think it's a bee. I think it's just a fly. If it bites one of us, it's not a bee. Or, it's not a fly. So I guess I was saying, sometimes you're posting stuff as pictures even. So a lot of people, especially creative types, were taking pictures back in the day, and they may have actual pictures, or they just like the aesthetic or the whatever it is of the challenge, maybe, of taking regular pictures, and maybe they just have that equipment and want to play with it or use it. So whatever the fact is, you may have some actual stuff, or maybe you did something else. Maybe you were painting or sculpting or something. Like, you're allowed to still be part of the conversation when you bring all that kind of skill set to the mix. So that stuff might exist, and you're allowed to incorporate that. In fact, we had at Gun Channels, we had quite a few people that bring their real life skills to the mix. Think of Ozzy out there right now. We've got others. I don't want to forget everybody, so I'll just leave it with Ozzy. But there's tons of people that, or Snob, who's anytime you need something made out of Kydex, Snob will just drop everything, get that made for you. Anything, doesn't matter what it is. If he needs to, he'll just 3D print a blank and get that to you. Any kind of Kydex pattern too, from what I understand. Any kind of pattern or material, any thickness, even if you want the clear without any bubbles in it, not a problem. But I'm not here to sell anybody's services or anything. But you may have stuff that isn't necessarily digital. So, getting that stuff into digital can be part of the fun. Can be a collaborative thing as well. So any of the stuff that sounds daunting or intimidating can be done with help, because there's tons of people. I mean, go into a gun range. Everybody's gun people here, right? Go to a gun range and go, how do I do this? And how many, the really question is how many people are going to come over and tell you how to do it. Now, if 3 people come over, you're going to get 4 different ways how to do it, right? So there's that, but that's a whole nother story. All right, so evaluating your content. Honestly, I think more the better. Get your stuff up there. You might not have to share everything, but if you can figure out how to get maybe pictures of, or maybe you did music or something, and don't tell me, how many music Second Amendment people do we have? How many do we need, right? So what if somebody did music? Getting that stuff into digital, even if it isn't for public consumption. I just noticed I have a massive gouge on my arm, so I'm going to put some Neosporin on it. Live, while we're here, I'm going to put a Neosporin on my arm. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's got anything out there by just putting their collection or their, what's that called, their library or whatever onto digital, even if they don't share it, you're getting practice, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Some exercise in the act of, and that's super useful, because that's how you become fluent in, just like an instrument or anything else, just like typing or driving. At first it's clunky, and then you get really good at it, and then after a while you just kind of go where you want. So the same applies for content creation, and sometimes archiving your own stuff gives you that, well, depending on how much stuff you've got and where you want to dig, almost an infinite amount of stuff to bring up and digitize, or to bring to somehow, like we're saying, to be archived. Current organization and storage methods. I'm not sure. We're gonna get into that. That sounds kind of tech, but if anybody ever had a question about stuff like that, again, there's plenty of forums out there, and something like, hey, I'm trying to archive everything, and XYZ, I'm anticipate, this many gigabytes of stuff. How should I store that? Just there's 3 or 4 answers to that question, how there is with a lot of things. So bring that up to, again, the right group of people, and you'll get those 3 or 4 answers. And just like if you asked, what shotgun should I buy? You really don't know, right? So you're asking, you find out, oh, dang, if I'm doing this or if I'm doing that, that's 2 different kind of shotguns. And if I want to do it this way, or if I want to do it that way, then that's a couple of different options. So there are a couple of different correct answers to this, kind of depending on what you want to do. It's the same way with this computer kind of stuff. Identifying gaps and opportunities, missing documents, or incomplete stories. That's an interesting aspect. So once you start to put stuff together, you see that there's pieces missing. And I've done this myself. I've attempted to archive our journey through this thing, because it's so long now and so many people are involved, and it's gone in so many directions. We've definitely been, I don't know if dynamic is the right word, but we're not linear. We're not doing one thing over and over and over. So trying to archive all that stuff, I guess some stuff you just block from your memory because it was not a great time, or it wasn't a win or whatever. But yeah, you start to figure out, oh wait, what did happen during these times, and then you also get to see where you were, maybe on vacation, napping, you weren't doing nothing. And you're allowed to do that, right? Everybody's allowed to take time off, regroup, recalibrate, enjoy with the splendor of it, of the work. Current organization and storage methods, identifying gaps, opportunities for enhanced content, detailed logs behind the scenes. I'm reading into that yeah, again, is the you start to archive what you're doing as a project, as an exercise, and you'll figure out, you know what, if I wanted to keep doing this, all I would have had to do is rename all my files. And now if I would have put all my files into a folder, labeled March, then April, then May, then if I was looking back for my stuff, it would be real easy to find, because I'm pretty much sure I did it in the early part of the year and it wasn't in the May folder. And, process of elimination, it's going to be in this folder. And then I labeled all the names of the files so I can just do a computer search for it. Those kind of things you start to figure out. Now, on the other hand, you take 17 pictures at a lake or something, 1,700 pictures at a lake, depending on who you are, and you're not going to label all those. But you might figure out there's a process where you can rename them all real quick. Name of the lake, pictures of Saguaro Lake, August of 2025. Oop, that hasn't happened yet. We're not supposed to talk about that. September of, 2020. And, you might find that there's some ways that you can go back and edit names or regroup stuff. So anyway, I think there's some value there that, again, you kind of learn some skills by attempting these exercises. Organizing content, thematic categories, events, personal milestones, trainings, chronological organization. I would actually, if we had like a talk going on here, again, I think because of the time of day, that'd be pretty difficult. But if we were having a talk here, I think I would take the time to go ask the robot for more ways to categorize content, because I think that's really interesting. And I think there's something to be gained from, you've got a set of data and you organize it by date. Okay, great. But if you organized it by price, you're going to get different information from that list. And if you organized it by product, well, now you know a whole bunch of different information. And if you did a search by which day of the week it was purchased, you'd have even more data. So now you'd know which product makes the most money on Thursday, and, just by sorting that list differently. So there's ways to get data from this kind of exercise, again, that is neat. And having either your data in blog form, well, right away you're going to have a title to that blog. The blog is going to be posted on a specific date. It's the same thing with YouTube. It's just a little bit clunkier to sort. YouTube doesn't give us a bunch of sort features. There might be some third-party stuff that I'm not aware of. And if somebody knows about it, let us know. There certainly could be, because this is something that would be useful. But ways to sort your videos, let me see all the videos that have to do with hunting, or all the videos that have to do with 3380 ACP, and then go through and again get data from that, or use those in a way to archive, your projects. So I think it would be neat to see some other ways to categorize content, but since there's only two here, we'll keep going. Building a centralized archive. I think most people I know recommend having something like a website as a home base, a place to send everyone, a place that links to everything, for more than a few reasons. But the main is that you own it, right? You're the complete 100% in charge of it. There's a little, responsibility and obligation, of course, there. But the most thing, but you're also ensured that like the platform isn't going to drop from under you. We're dealing with that right now, with some projects, people, and organizations, I guess, maybe not organizations, but people and projects that I'm a part of, that a system is being, I guess, swallowed up or incorporated, or I don't really know the details, but essentially we have to log into a different system, a whole different system that wasn't what we signed on for, in order to keep using, well, I think in order to keep using what was there. But we all know, well, at least my experience is that typically once that happens, the smaller entity was absorbed for some reason, staff or tech. Typically, and then once that happens, and then once that tech or staff has been incorporated into the bigger piece, they just kind of let it go away. So we're not going to invest. Nobody's going to invest time or effort into the, whatever that incorporated entity was. I was just kind of distracted there as we hooked up with Cape Gunworks, who has a, I think the dude just grabbed that fly. Did you get it? He waited for it to land on the thing that's behind us when we film. And he went over there and wailed on it. It either got away or he stepped on it or something. It's not in sight and he doesn't know where it is. Anyway, so Cape Gunworks does the 2A Tuesday segment of the Grace Curley Show each Tuesday. That's why we do this show in the time slot that we do. So I was just actually literally physically, I guess, hooking that up to the show. And what I did in the process, of course, is close the thing that I was just reading. So we're now opening that back up again. Do I blame the co-host? Yeah, because he could have said this. Close the thing that I was just reading. Come on, man. The co-host could have done all this stuff before the show, like a good co-host would have. All right. I do like to thank our robot co-hosts. I didn't say overlord. I said co-host. That does all the work here. All we do is criticize, and take for granted all the work, hard work, milliseconds of work that it took the robot. But I'd like to thank our Patreons. There is a scroll going. Do I even have a camera anymore? Let me see. Not that button. Boom. Our Patreons make it possible. Oh, wait. Our Patreons make projects like these possible. Thank you. And then that's a link to our Patreon. You can also participate by being a YouTube channel member, or one of the other ways that people would normally support something, buy something from our store. Just throw money at us through Patreon or coffee. I think we are on. But we do appreciate that. We're capitalists and we are trying to pay bills. I'm actually just getting out of the debt from putting too much stuff on credit cards while doing too much of this stuff. So the servers and really the servers were at risk. So I really do appreciate the Patreons to making it possible for us to even be here through those years. And now they are the ones that make it possible for us to grow and do inventive, new, innovative, that's what I'm looking for, new things like this. Vertical video. We're the future. It's a vertical video. But in seriousness, we have 3 servers that cost money and a bunch of websites that are out there. They don't necessarily cost a ton of money, but they are out there essentially without any ads that are either creating awareness or hopefully helping push that over to the window to give resources to people for the normalization of firearms and gun ownership without a focus on keeping the game going, but a focus on, again, normalizing it so we can move on from this and deal with real issues. I won't get all preachy about that, but I do appreciate the Patreons that give us time to do all this stuff. So we'll get into the converting to. I kind of already mentioned the potential of sorting your projects. So you have, let's say, some music, or you have some images or some stuff that you've taken pictures of, and you're going to put that on a computer. Or nowadays, maybe you have some stuff and you want to digitize it straight into a 3D software or something. So when you do that, when you get the data and get it into the computer, however you're going to do that, and again, we could have a whole show on that. When you put it into the computer, you have to immediately start figuring out where you're going to put it and what you're going to name it. And that's essentially what we're talking about, having some organization to the naming thing so that you can find it again in the future, instead of the quick, whatever the default name comes up with, say yes and go on. You do have an option to rename things to something that a human can read or something that you can use to sort or to filter in the future. So essentially, that's what we're talking about. It probably could be a lot more. I could elaborate on that a bit, but then we get into documenting personal stories, writing detailed accounts of significant events and milestones. That's interesting, and I think a lot of us don't realize that we've done this because we've had conversations. So, I should say, we've had conversations in live forums. So that means that now that the internet robots will, at our beck and call, go translate the internet, what we said, into words. We have written detailed accounts of significant events and milestones. We have it either in a literal, like, what's the word, like conversation format, where it'll say, Bob said this and Cindy said that and Larry said this other thing. Or you can go into that transcript and essentially create a summary with a couple of actual quotes, from Bob or Sally or whoever. So, we already have, as we were unintentionally just saying stuff over the last 12 years of saying stuff online, created detailed accounts of these events. So again, that could be an interesting project for somebody to imagine what would happen if what would be the result of the collaborative effort of everyone going back and creating something like that. Again, we're getting this list from a large language model. So if everyone went out there and said, I'm going to grab a point in time and make a the transcript of that live chat. And maybe I'm going to tell a language model to take that transcript and give me a synopsis or whatever it is, a summary, whatever the right word is, of what that was said. And that'll become like a little narrative of what was said in that chat. And you could say to the large language model interface, hey, give me a synopsis that reads like a play or reads like a radio show, like an audio book or something. And it'll do that. It'll create that. So if everyone were to do projects like that, maybe even once a month, in a while, what would that added new set of language on the internet, how would that influence the large language models? People that are paying attention, which I don't even know how many of us there are, but people that have been talking to the large language models that are out there, and like I say, some of them that are paid or behind paywalls, when you ask them things about guns, it's changed dramatically from what it started with to where it's at now. And it's not good or bad, but it's not great. I'll say it that way. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but I mean, it could be way worse. It's not, and it's not awesome for us. But how could we influence that? I don't know. By doing things on the internet that it reads, because it reads the internet. But so I think there's value here that's beyond our own egos or our own, whatever you say, like, individual interests of our own histories or whatever. Like I said, I think there's a great value in archiving our histories, putting those on the internet. That text is what the large language models read. It's what the future is going to read. And I talk about that box of black and white photographs. We look at our grandparents' box of black and white photographs. We are creating on the internet that for the future, right? So again, how much of that is going to be innovative, useful conversation about firearms and the normalization of this and the rational discussion about the challenges to the emotional pleas that the other side insists on putting out there decade after decade. Again, when 10 years from now, you'll just have to ask the robot who's right on guns. and it'll go back and go, oh, well, who was right all along is individual freedom. And there was a lot of hype and fear mongered by people who essentially were at first funded by the 14th richest guy on the planet, and then working for the 20th richest guy on the planet, because he's changed in that time from what I remember. But now he's getting paid by the 2022 bipartisan Let's Make More Gun Control Act, and that pays back Bloomberg for all that money he spent by funding his organizations that he created in all these states. So I'm not saying it was masterminded by him, but he certainly is the only one monetarily benefiting by it. But whatever, what I can see now, or what I would think everyone could see if they looked at it, the internet robots in the future are going to definitely see. So anyway, that's just one example, right? Look how many different things are out there that us shining a light on it is going to allow those internet robots of the future to understand what's going on. And so anyway, there's that value. It's always nice to do work for the internet robots of the future. And if it helps people today, it's a great side effect, right? All right, so documenting those personal stories. I hope people, again, just don't think that's a useless effort. I think it has tremendous value. And I'm laughing or whatever because there's nobody participating. Foss said, hey, but nobody's really chatting out there. Let's see. Compelling tutorials and guides. The way I'm reading that one without digging into it is, you write your story, you're going to write your story. But what if you wrote your story? And what if your story's not that big? You're allowed to have a story that's little. Like, not everybody's everywhere. Not everybody's finished yet. Like, some people are just getting started. Some people only do a couple of things. Like, that happens all the time. So if your story is whatever it is, you take that story and you throw it into a large language model, or you send it to some human, if you will insist on using humans for everything. But you just send it to somebody just out of shits and giggles and say, send somebody on Fiverr, let's say, for $5 and say somebody who's a writer on Fiverr, somebody who's put up the shingle to say, I will write for you. And you give them a little, maybe a piece of your life story, or your project story, I should say, the life story of your project. And you say, create an origin story in the style of whatever you like graphic novel. How about 1950s comic? How about 1920s dime novel? Is that the time, whatever the era is of dime novels, or maybe like golden age comic. I don't really know. I'm just making shit up. But whatever these things are that you might want, or like that noir, if that's a thing. So like you can do that, and you can say, make this sound something interesting, and then you can give it to somebody else and they'll say it for you. And now you have an intro to your show that sounds super cool, right? So as you're writing this stuff, you don't just have to create a list with bullet points. I'm trying to find where I put my... I'm coughing and I'm parched, but I have my Hydration Nation insulated canteen, which we won't get into the adventure of how I fell out of a helicopter and was saved by my Hydration Nation canteen in this episode. But I'm going to go into here. It's 118 outside right now. And I still have ice in this Hydration Nation double insulated. Well, it's insulated at least. Large container. Oh, Unapologetically Arms out there. Welcome. You know what I found when I was digging around? A button machine that I never sent to Unapologetically Armed. So I want to apologize to Unapologetically Armed for totally blowing off sending you and I'll get rid of that awkward silence after I should have muted. You know what? I'm going to play a commercial and give me a second to drink some of this iced cold water out of this Hydration Nation bottle. Am I allowed to put commercials into these things? I probably could, but I'm going to put a commercial up for somebody who you may have thought went on a hiatus, but he actually just went to Nebraska.
This is Earl Benson reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.
It's pretty loud. At least is it loud on your side? It's super loud on my side. All right, so I'm probably going to turn that off again. So I'm going vertical because we're in the future now. We're not bound by the horizontalness. I honestly just wanted to check this out. I think the X is where we're getting a lot of our views, and I figured the X, they're trendy, they're hip. They might be looking at these things vertical. I did lose where we were at. Incorporate in. Oh, I was just reading compelling tutorials, and I think I was getting at that. You start writing this stuff in like plain old bullet points, but then hopefully it starts to inspire you. If nothing else, you're writing yours. You're going to start seeing other people's attempts at this. So as you're writing your own projects down, your own archive, you're going to start seeing other people's sharing theirs, and you're going to see how they've done it, like the creative ways that they've approached it. And as you do that, you'll start to figure out things that you can do to embellish yours or to make yours focus on the things that you like the best out of it, right? But let's see, organizing instructional content systematically. And I've thought about doing that occasionally because I've put out a lot of stuff spasmodically, I call it, like a spaz, because I was never I only know how to do that. Oh, I thought maybe my mic was screwed up. I got you. And thanks again for being gracious, but I do apologize again. I've always thought about going back and trying to organize my stuff. Every once in a while I do actually, and you know how I do it on YouTube at least, is with playlists. So there's some potential here for people who have large libraries of stuff. If you haven't played with playlists, if you haven't utilized playlists to your advantage for this purpose, then definitely incorporate that. And that's one of the disadvantages of some of the other platforms out there is they don't get large enough to incorporate those kind of systems. They can be pretty database heavy and just unnecessary really to basic operations. So that's something that YouTube gives us, and it can be super useful. We won't get into too many specific strategies, but having a page on your website or a place on your blog that links to a playlist on YouTube, for example, is a very quick way to send people over to not just one video on your YouTube, but a video. If you haven't seen it, when you link someone to your playlist, they're going to be fed to essentially like a stream, like a feed. It's going to play whatever you linked them to, the specific one, but then it's going to play them episode 2 and then episode 3 and then episode 4 or whatever order you put them in. And you can sometimes put them in order that they're most popular, so you got the most chance of somebody being intrigued by the one that gets played next. And if you're talking about shorts, or if you're talking about knife videos, right, or if you're talking about something that's specific, that's where those playlists can be super powerful. Once you incorporate that, let's say on a blog or on a social, but ideally like on a blog or someplace where you're creating an audience, everybody comes in and starts using that playlist to put watch time on your channel. Well, that's an ingredient that's necessary for the logarithms to, tag your channel for growth, essentially, without getting into that tangent. But, these are the kind of things that have value. And again, these aren't just wasted efforts. And I think there's value, again, in the collective addition of all of this content onto YouTube, because again, when we get into when YouTube's models, YouTube's, I don't know if it's an AI, I really don't want to speak for YouTube, but YouTube has some kind of brains, that computer mechanisms that monitor the content. And the more positive gun stuff there is, even if that gun stuff is to introspect on itself or look back at itself, that's added content, and that's active participation in that realm or whatever. So anyway, that's all positive for the big goal here. Let's see. So we're already now at a time crunch because the Toby show starts here in 11 minutes. So I didn't want to go through all of these, but I kind of brushed on top of most of them. But it also says organizing instructional content systematically, providing context and updates to previous guides. And that's another benefit of this whole thing. When I first thought about this, one of the first things that came to mind is it's very useful once you've got something started to it's handy, or what's the word? It's awesome once you've got something started to be able to just keep adding to it. So this might sound daunting, I guess, if to someone who hasn't even started any of this stuff. But if you think because you got a lot of projects or you just don't have a lot of time to do this, or both, so you start, right? You go, okay, well, I did some fishing stuff that was pretty cool. Let me do that. Let me organize a podcast or a playlist, and then let me put something somewhere and say, this is the playlist, featured playlist of the week, and let me make that a scheduled post on the community channel or the community tab on YouTube. And now I've created a community post and I've created a playlist, and now there's a reason for someone to go check out that playlist. And think about how many ways you can sort your own data. Here's all the pistols, here's all the 380s, here's all the times we went to a 2A rally, here's all the times I talked to a congressperson, here's all the times we went live to watch testimonials, right? You start to put all these things together, even if it's 2 or 3, like who cares? It's 2 or 3. Now what? Next time you do one, you got 3 in there, or 4. Next time you do one, you got 6 or 7. Next year, when you go back and say, how do I look back? I already built all this stuff. What do I do now? Oh shit, we added 12 this year. Like, oh crap. You're allowed to put other people's stuff in there too, right? Like Chris from 740 just jumped in. He posted a video about something. You put it in your playlist and your system like that. Now, you've got awareness of Chris's efforts over there, and you've got stuff that's posted in your playlist over there. So there's ways that this is the systematic and organizational, I guess, aspect of this part is useful for channel growth, but also, again, for that big picture of normalizing guns. So definitely useful potential here, or time spent, I guess. Backup and security, that's an interesting one. How often have you lost, I don't know, anything, right? So wherever it is you store your data, hopefully you're storing your data occasionally. Like you take your pictures just briefly, right? When they have 8 more minutes. Hopefully you're taking your pictures, you're taking that data and putting it on a computer. Even if you don't edit on your computer, you're putting it either on a computer or someplace, like through a computer, or just plug a hard drive into your phone. But hopefully you're putting it on a hard drive. But hopefully you're backing up that hard drive, right? So if you put it on your computer, hopefully you're pulling it out, or maybe even on the cloud. Hopefully you're also putting it on a hard drive somewhere. So essentially you'd ideally have the stuff that's on your phone is temporary. And, sometimes you use it as like a pickup truck. Like you'll pick stuff up off your phone or your computer or your hard drive or something, and then you'll move it to a friend's house, or for a project or something, you'll put it on your phone and put it on one of your other computers or something. But then you'll delete those things and have your space on your phone again. It's like a pickup truck. But ideally, you take a bunch of pictures on your phone, you get them off of there, because you want them to be backed up at least twice. So you've got them physically someplace, and if you've got them that you're using them, great, have them 3 times. But then you have them on the cloud somewhere. And Apple people have all their stuff on the clouds. They live in the clouds, right? But the rest of us, go buy something that's practical, don't get ripped off, and just buy some cloud storage space, and don't worry about the security. Nobody's looking at our pictures for this kind of stuff, but just have some backups, because what we're talking about here is you never know. So lightning can strike and destroy a file cabinet. Lightning can strike and destroy a hard drive that's plugged in, right? So it doesn't happen when you have redundant cloud storage. So having it 3 ways is always a good idea if you've got valuable data. That being said, having created archives of your content online publicly is now another version of your content that's online again. So, or backed up, I guess. So there's lots of compelling reasons to do these efforts. Create an archive of what you've done, documenting your 2A journey and adventure. Let's see. Regular maintenance and updates. I don't know. It's boring. I don't know why that's in there. sharing and utilizing the archive. So you can do it for your own purposes, which is awesome. What if you're going to have people helping you? What if you're going to have puppy co-hosts right now? Hey, you want to come back up here? I think he's given up on the fly. He's laying down, looking all sad down there. So I don't know if he's going to come back or not. But if you have a puppy co-host, how are you supposed to make sure that puppy gets, or that co-host gets all your complicated instructions correct? Having the stuff posted somewhere is a good way to ensure that everyone's on the same, using the same recipe. Making it accessible on the other side, on the public side. We were just having this argument earlier. In fact, half the people in this chat would be on different sides of the fence with me. But, where you decide to do all this stuff is a big thing, or it's not a big thing, but it is definitely a factor. So making it accessible or making it unaccessible, making it private, both are necessary and both are useful, but where you're going to spend your time, I guess that's what my thing is. If you're going to spend an hour a week on something, let's say for your project, you're going to do a full hour of that in front of everybody, or you're going to do 80% of it behind, let's say, offline or whatever, like behind in an offline situation. In my experience, that's fine. You can definitely do things that way, but then you're constantly having to pull the important stuff off back on the line. And that seems like extra work. So I'm lazy. I put everything online constantly, and it's a lot of stuff. But again, my goal here is to create a lot of stuff, not to strategically put just surgical stuff up. And not that the people that what I'm talking about are trying to do that, but that's the reason those other things are so popular. So you can do a bunch of stuff behind offline, I guess, and then just offer what you need here and there, which is a good strategy. I don't know if I'm going on too many tangents here. Let's see. So then we get into the platforms and the tools. I'm not going to bother because they change. And whenever you're listening to this, even if it's next week, you're probably like, if this is vertical, this is going to attract a bunch of vertical people. So those people probably use the cloud differently than horizontal people. They're walking around with a phone, for crying out loud. They're not sitting down at a computer. It's totally different people. Everybody obviously uses both, but where are you consuming your content? Are you consuming it like on the bus while you're going 2 hours each way to work or school or something, or church or something? Or is it, you're sitting at home waiting for somebody to get done in the shower, or, between two different shifts at two different jobs or something? Like, everybody's doing their stuff differently. So I don't think there's anything as a right way or wrong way. I guess if you really looked into it and you started doing this in an organized fashion, you would get data from it that would allow you to know when to put the stuff up, which is another, I guess, benefit of it. If one of your goals is for channel growth or for reach, you can try just dropping 1 or 2 hooks in the water. But if you systematically put a hook in the water every day, every hour for a few weeks, you'll pretty much figure out the trend of when fish are biting. Does that make sense? So, creating these kind of projects with your own content that is essentially effortless. I shouldn't say effortless. It's very inexpensive, and it's essentially as effortless as a project can be because you don't have to create anything new. Creatively, it's pretty fun. You just get to start with bullet points, turn that into a PowerPoint, and make that more elaborate as you feel like it. And what you'll end up with is, the opportunity to be creative in whatever parts of that you want. And whatever you learn along the way is useful for yourself, and you're creating everything. I just want to be redundant if I keep saying that over and over. So I should have highlighted where we're at, which I stopped doing a while ago, and I'm down to 1 minute. So we'll pretty much, I'd say we'll open it up for questions, but I don't see anybody really asking any, but feel free to ask them, because who knows, Toby will usually play a bunch of music for a while, try to copyright me. I wonder if he'll have the puppy up here. Hey, puppy, you want to come up? Oh, no, ran over there. Hey, puppy, you want to come up here? Come here. He could care less. He isn't even looking over here, so he's not coming back over here. But I was going to say maybe Toby's going to start his show with his dog, but it looks like he's now waiting. We're in a holding pattern. It started. It has started. So Quark was this dude. Most people don't know Quark because it was way before your days. But the first version of Gun Channels, the early days of Every Second Matters, through 2013. So actually, Quark was probably around 2010 to like 2014, something like that era. Oh, he did start it with the puppy. So Quark is a dude who was a host. He had a bunch of, did he have, how many shows did he have? He had a number of shows, let's say. I'm going to make that full screen, which will make the puppy as large as possible on this hokey verticalist situation. So Quark had a number of shows.
Check out all of them.
He was a host, and he would be on a lot of people's shows, and he had opinionated views. And I honestly don't remember if he was a Glock hater or if he was a Glock lover. I think he was one of the original Glock haters, actually. Nobody's old enough to remember Quark. But essentially, back in those days, you would there was live shows, and there was a lot of live shows. So there was so many live shows that we all had our allotted schedules and slots and stuff. And some people would be on a lot of people's shows, but the people who hosted those shows had specific time slots and days and stuff. And everybody respected each other until one day when Quark decided to go rogue and just do whatever he wanted and started running a show on top of somebody else's show. And that is when that became Quarking somebody. When you just decide to do your show right on top of when somebody else's pre-allocated time of doing their show is.
Can you hear me? And so listen to the Grace Curley show for a minute. I'll be right back.
So that's going to copyright us. But this is the definition of Quarking. So now you know the history and origin of Quarking. No one knows the what happened to Quark in the long run, unfortunately. I think people have heard from him, but that's lore and legend at this point. There's the Snow Angels, and there's a Glock, maybe a CZ involved. All right, well, with that, thanks everybody for who did participate today. And I don't know, maybe I should do something to make the show more inclusive or something. What's the word? But if you have any suggestions for topics, the goal is to workshop stuff to or the stuff that we deal with as content creators who are focused on what our Second Amendment protects. So it's difficult enough to be a gun content creator on specific platforms, not necessarily just in general, because if you really are open-minded and work on different platforms and have different ideas of what success is, then you can be ultimately successful as a gun creator or a gun content creator on the internet. But definitely on specific platforms, there's misunderstanding and a lack of awareness that create a difficult situation for us. That being said, it's even more difficult when we talk about the Second Amendment, specifically, what our rights and what are protected by that Second Amendment. Oh, look how many people just jumped off whenever I said whatever I just said there. Because, of course, then you've even narrowed it down a little bit more. So because that's something that's often not on the radar, it's often neglected, of course, we'll continue to focus on this. I've seen too many success stories, and so many success stories, and so many it's difficult to even start tracking them, which is one of the reasons I thought about this topic. We have done that. There's a couple of decks of cards that we've done with Gun Channels members. We've definitely done some patches and logos and stuff when I have the machines up and running. Man, that'll be fun to have those things up and running again. But because we have even more machines than ever before now. But we were able to do all kinds of custom stuff. So, keeping track of people as they're participating and creating the places that we're able to gather and have more than just an audience, because anybody can play a show, right? But being able to gather and have conversation and learn and go out and live, then come back and bring more stuff to that group that has already had some experience with each other. It's invaluable. It's more than priceless. Priceless is quaint or whatever, but in order to succeed at what we're trying to do here, change the scenario, right? Create awareness and the normalization of guns. That happens with an evolution, and that only happens when people can come back to a place. So that place might be the comment section of your video. It might just be the number of viewers that show up, the people that have seen your video. It might be the number of listeners to your podcast. Thanks to everybody that listens to the podcast out there. What's Toby saying over here?
The Grace Curley.
Okay, they're still showing the show. So we just still got Arlo. So I'm just going to keep talking. I'm just going to keep porking. So anyway, I think that it's no matter what your contributions are, they're ultimately valuable. So we'll continue to do this show on Tuesdays to both encourage and facilitate that. That being said, let me know what it is that might be messing with you or inhibiting you or screwing with you, and we'll beat it up for you so that you don't have to worry about it no more. If it's something as like a tech issue, those are simple. Like just as recently as not that long ago, I was able to take somebody who is like an old person. Holy shit, I think he might be older than me. And definitely like just never even gave a shit about tech to where he barely uses the phone. And I was able to explain to him some stuff about the phone and how you use the speaker part to talk to the phone. And essentially, there's a difference between talking to the phone here and talking to the phone there. Like it's a different robot brain listening to you. So they're going to have different awareness, different like ability to answer. Because he was essentially getting frustrated when he would ask the robot to do this and it was stupid. I was like, dude, you're just look, you're asking a little robot. You could be asking a big robot. So, just stuff like that is ultimately useful because now it just enables them to, just have more access to robots, which is always a good thing. But seriously, whatever it is you might be interested in, we'll either we have approached it and we could chat about it again since we're kind of talking about that today. But if it's something we haven't talked about, then you get a bonus point. And
We got the Rahimi.
Okay, he's going to be talking about stuff. So if you bring up something that we haven't talked about before, you get bonus points for bringing up something we haven't talked about before. I encourage you to go check out Toby. When this ends, it'll link you over to his channel, to that show specifically, and check it out. He's a co-owner of a gun shop in Massachusetts, so behind enemy lines, dealing with all of the unfortunate laws that they're dealing with in Massachusetts, but just being a gun shop owner and a gun owner for so long, he's able to answer and does answer quite a few different like specific questions about guns or smithing or parts or things like that. And then being on the range and being a part of the community, he's aware of the different events that are going on and things like that. So that part's pretty neat. And then this show is a 45-minute segment on a Grace Curley's radio show. So this is typically like a fast question and answer for about 45 minutes. And I'm corking it. So I'm going to end and say thanks everybody for joining us. And for the people on the podcast, you'll get a commercial here at the end for our Gear website store. If you want to help us out financially as a capitalist, consider grabbing something from our store. We send it to you with our thanks.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
This is Earl Benson reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on foul territory Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central, Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.